Hi, my name is Adam Berry. I'm Vice President of Economic Development and Technology at the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, and I couldn't be more happy to be here with you all today to provide a bit of a legislative update and give you sort of a overview of where electric vehicles are in Indiana and sort of where we're going to be going over the next 20, 30 years. And the purpose of your conference, electric vehicles and the path to electric vehicles adoption, I think is so critically important. We had recently a interim study committee in Indiana, and watching that committee and listening to legislators and listening to witnesses made me realize how early on we are currently as a state and as a country in electric vehicle adoption. And so the more work that we can do now to think about what the next decades will bring in terms of electric and hybrid vehicles is so critically important. So I'm pleased to share some slides with you today. We'll go over some of what we work on at the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, as well as the legislative outlook in Indiana. So as I mentioned, I'm Vice President of Economic Development and Technology at the Indiana Chamber of Commerce. And in that capacity, I work with presidents, CEOs of companies throughout the state who are assigned to certain policy committees. And our policy committees are responsible for developing legislative business issues and public policy issues that we use as lobbyists to advocate at the State House. So a few of the relevant policy positions that have resulted from both our infrastructure policy committee as well as our economic development and technology policy committees are as follows. So currently the index fees for non-electric vehicles are set to expire. Well, it's different for electric vehicles, and so the Indiana Chamber supports the non-expiration of indexing for electric vehicle fees. Also, we support the user fee model to sustain infrastructure funding, and I'll touch on this in a little bit. But with so much of INDOT, Indiana Department of Transportation's revenue dependent upon fuel taxes. And since we're on the precipice of sort of this transformation to electric and alternative fuels, it's important to find new and creative revenue streams to help support our infrastructure in the long term. Also, we support the investment in critical utility infrastructure system. And what this means is we're not looking for the state to offer handouts to our utilities, but just have an understanding that the current utility infrastructure system is not necessarily designed for charging stations and other components that are necessary in the future of electric vehicles. And finally, Indiana is the most manufacturing intensive state in the country. And we want to figure out ways to leverage our advanced manufacturing sector, as well as our thriving innovation and technology sectors, to have a economic development strategy that really positions Indiana for the future of automation innovation. And in addition to the items I just mentioned, Indiana's location is also value add. We recognize that other states, Michigan and Illinois and Ohio and Kentucky, to a certain extent, are all working in this area and working in this sector. And so we feel like leveraging Indiana's assets will help us going forward. I was asked to give sort of an overview of the climate of Indiana's legislation and sort of legal developments in terms of electric vehicles and infrastructure. And so where I have to start is in 2017, the state passed landmark legislation that established a a benchmark for infrastructure funding for the foreseeable future. Specifically, $1 billion a year will be used for infrastructure, roads, and transportation infrastructure. This is nearly a 5% increase from previous years. And while some of that is earmarked for certain maintenance and other items that are sort of on our to-do list, having $1 billion set aside annually for infrastructure funding really gives us the flexibility that we'll need to prepare our roads and transportation systems generally for electric vehicles, getting back to the utility infrastructure system that I mentioned previously. Also from that legislation, what we included was sort of a variance in terms of what the registration fees are in Indiana. So for non-electric, non-hybrid vehicles, that's a $21.50 registration fee, which is divided 8 different ways. And I'm not going to get into it, but the point is that that $21.50 goes a long way to support different funds that we have. To accommodate for the loss in revenue that we're going to, that NDOT in the state is going to experience from electric and hybrid vehicles, the registration fee is more for those types of vehicles, $150 for purely electric vehicles, and then $50 for hybrid vehicles. And interestingly, the benefactor of those fees is the local road and bridge matching grant fund, so to help local infrastructure. But sort of I guess, what have you done for me lately, or what's the most relevant recent legislation? It really came from this year. It was House Bill 1168 that establishes the Electric Vehicle Product Commission. And a lot of applause goes to Representative Karakoff, who spearheaded this. Representative Karakoff represents the Kokomo area, which, as you may or may not know, is very automated, has a deep, rich history in automated manufacturing here in the state. Currently, was Chrysler, now Stellantis, has a lot of, has a big presence there. And what House Bill 1168 does is it creates this commission comprised of 10 members. 6 are appointed by the governor and from diverse backgrounds. So you have representatives from the automotive manufacturing industry, labor union, and the Indiana Chamber of Commerce. And we have Subaru, Honda, and Toyota are the really large auto manufacturers in Indiana. And so what we've done is the member of the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, that is going to be given to Toyota, as Honda and Subaru are making up the 2 representatives in that first bullet point. And then there are 4 members from the General Assembly that are going to be on the commission. And the commission is tasked with 8 specific objectives to evaluate the existing electric vehicle, what our capabilities are, evaluating the inventory of our skilled and non-skilled workers in the electric vehicle product industry, evaluating opportunities and needs for training, and determining if training centers promoting careers should be created or transitioned from traditional automotive industry training centers. I'll take a moment here. Over the last really 16 years, Indiana has really emphasized its investment in our workforce, really across the board. But understanding how important the automotive industry is to our state, there's been a real emphasis on skilling up automobile manufacturing workforce. There's also the need to identify existing manufacturing companies within traditional industry, identify and evaluate opportunities for growth, document results from previous instances of retooling and transforming manufacturing facilities, and identifying opportunities for research and development. And I think that the final point, the final objective is is probably the most critical. As I mentioned previously, we're at the very early stages of this electric vehicle transformation. Just as a couple factoids, if you will, that you may or may not have heard from other presenters, but currently in Indiana, only 1.5% of new vehicle sales are electric. The projections are that in 2025, that number will be 5%. 2030, it will be 15%. 2035, 30%. And in 2040, 50% of all new vehicle sales will be electric. And by that date, also 25% of all vehicles that are registered in the state will be electric vehicles. The federal government projects that by 2030, 50% of all new vehicle sales will be either alternative fuel, electric, natural gas, or some form of hybrid. And I mention those factoids just to make the point of how early we are in this game, and why I think that why I give so much praise to Representative Karakoff and his foresight and understanding the relevancy and the importance of this commission really is to take a hard look at where we are today and where we need to go going forward. And it's critically important, not just for Indiana, but all states really should have some type of commission or group stakeholders looking at these issues. The commission is set to expire in 2026, and the annual report is due September 30th of each year between now and then. And just a few more Indiana-specific facts. We have 100,000 automobile manufacturing jobs in our state. And General Motors, for example, employs 6,400 employees. And GM, if you recall, in the Super Bowl last year, said that there will be 30 new electric vehicle options by 2025. Again, reiterating the point, Indiana is very well positioned to continue its reliance on the automobile manufacturing industry. The infrastructure is here, the workforce is here, but everyone must recognize that there is a huge transformation on the horizon in terms of moving towards electric vehicles. And so the more that we can do now to prepare for that future, I think is relevant and is critical and relevant to the topic that of this conference and the other automobile manufacturing and infrastructure topics of the day. So this is my information. I'm happy to answer any questions. I invite you to reach out to me with policy-related questions or Indiana-specific related questions. And if you're a automobile worker, we would love to have you in our state as our workforce is growing, and also our state is very intent on supporting the industry and its workforce.